Anthropic ends unlimited AI usage to stop automated agents from draining compute. The CEO of Condé Nast officially declares the death of search traffic, and Cerebras rips to a $100 billion valuation on its first day of trading. Welcome to today's Daily Rundown. I am your host, Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, senior software engineer from Université Laval, based in Calgary, Alberta. Today, we perform a forensic autopsy on the death of the infinite pipeline this Thursday, May 14th, 2026. The era of unlimited digital scale is suddenly colliding with hard physical constraints. Anthropic has just instituted severe usage limits on its paid Claude plans, placing autonomous agents behind a strict credit meter. The reason is simple. Software agents are burning through compute far faster than human users ever could, causing enterprises to exhaust annual AI budgets in a matter of months. Simultaneously, the pipeline for digital media is evaporating. The CEO of Condé Nast has ordered all his brands to budget as if Google search traffic will drop to zero, as AI overviews completely choke off organic clicks. And on the hardware side, the desperation for faster AI inference has pushed the IPO of chipmaker Cerebras to an astonishing $107 billion valuation overnight. Before we dive into the data, I have a brief strategic request. The algorithms governing the app you are listening on right now dictate what intelligence reaches your feed. To ensure you never miss our most critical forensic autopsies, please hit follow or subscribe to the DJAMGAMIND channel on Apple Podcasts to always listen completely ads-free. It takes just 1 second, but it is the most effective way to help us scale this independent research. Today's episode is brought to you by Area. When unmanaged AI agents are burning through corporate budgets and breaking the internet, your organization needs flawless technical intelligence. A special thank you to Area for sponsoring today's forensic briefing. Let's unravel the day.
Before we begin today's briefing, a note for the brands listening. If you want to reach the true architects of the AI revolution, the technical leaders actually building the stack, not just the tourists, DJAMGAMIND offers select premium partnership opportunities. Let us position your product directly in front of the ultimate technical buyer. Visit jamgamind.com/partners.
For 20 years, the entire internet basically ran on two invisible pipelines of magic.
Right? Oh, absolutely. Free distribution and limitless computing power.
Exactly. Like if you built a website, search engines would eventually just route traffic to it for free.
Right. And if you wrote a piece of software, cloud servers would run it for, fractions of a penny.
Yeah. But today, both of those pipelines are dead. Yep. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are conducting a holistic, really forensic autopsy of the daily news for today, May 14th, 2026. And I got to say, the diagnosis is severe. The digital world is violently hitting physical and economic walls right now.
Yeah, we're looking at a system-wide shock. To understand what is happening to the market today, we really have to look at the anatomy of these new constraints.
Right.
The era of assuming unlimited digital resources is just over. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, we're going to dissect the sudden death of search traffic, the resulting enterprise labor purge, the end of all-you-can-eat AI, and this massive hardware squeeze that is completely warping market valuations.
It's a lot to get through, so let's start right at the top of the funnel, which is how people actually find information online.
Yeah, the distribution constraint.
Right, because the CEO of Condé Nast, Roger Lynch, he just issued a directive to his brands that completely upends the last 2 decades of digital publishing.
It really does.
He literally told his executives to build their financial models on a very bleak assumption, which is that search traffic is going to zero.
That is just a staggering economic pivot. He is officially declaring that the era of harvesting search and social media traffic to run an ad-supported business is just over.
Done. Okay, let's unpack this for a second. The digital publishing model relied on Google being an index, right? Like a map directing users outward to other destinations.
Exactly. You search for a recipe, you click the link, you visit the publisher's site, and they show you ads. That was the deal.
But Google's recent layout completely destroys that fundamental transaction. It's like going to a mall, but the doors only lead you into a massive food court that you can never leave.
That's a great way to put it.
I was looking at the notes from Lynch's board meeting, and they compared a Google search from like 7 or 8 years ago to today.
Oh, the visual difference is insane.
It is. Back then, it was literally just 10 blue links. Today, It's a massive AI overview generating the answer directly on the page, and then that's followed by rows of auto-generated commerce links, followed by sponsored widgets.
Right, the engine has been completely redesigned to keep the user entirely on the search results page.
Which means the pipeline just shuts off.
Exactly, because the attention economy is now captured at the pixel level, before the user ever clicks away. If you run a media business without an incredibly authoritative brand or like a direct captive audience, you're doomed.
You're just fighting hostile algorithm changes all the way down.
Right, until your traffic hits absolute zero. The search engine is no longer a distributor. It is a competitor.
And if Google is turning its search engine into a walled garden, it leaves this massive vacuum for product discovery.
Yeah, and the crazy part is the company stepping into that vacuum isn't building a search engine at all.
No, it's Amazon. They are completely absorbing their standalone shopping chatbot, Rufus.
Which already had, 300 million users in beta last year?
Yep. And now they are folding it into this all-encompassing agent called Alexa for shopping, and it completely takes over the search bar.
And this just illustrates the broader retreat we are seeing across the entire digital landscape.
How so?
Well, you aren't searching the open web for a product anymore, right? You're living inside an Amazon-controlled agentic loop. The agent follows you across devices, tracks your preferences, runs side-by-side comparisons, and dynamically analyzes pricing trends.
Oh, wow. It even features auto buy, right? Where it automatically purchases items when prices hit a target.
Yeah, and there's a new Buy For Me feature that handles checkouts on non-Amazon stores, just entirely bypassing the retailer's own website interface.
That is wild. It's like an impenetrable moat built out of customer history.
Exactly. The open internet is just fracturing into closed ecosystems. And we see the exact same behavior in social media.
Right. Social media is rapidly retreating from the public square. Look at Instagram. They're rolling out instants worldwide to basically take on Snapchat directly.
Yeah, these are photos that disappear after 24 hours. They're restricted to the in-app camera, so no edits, no uploads allowed.
And recipients cannot screenshot or record them. It's entirely ephemeral. You can only share them with close friends or mutual followers.
Which means the search and distribution pipelines of the 2010s simply do not exist anymore. Not in a landscape dominated by AI overviews, autonomous shopping agents, and closed, ephemeral social networks.
So the ad-supported consumer internet is just starving for traffic.
Completely starving.
And if the consumer internet is starving, the capital has to flow somewhere else.
Right. The money and the momentum are shifting violently toward the enterprise sector.
But the transition to get there is looking incredibly brutal for the average worker. LinkedIn just announced they are cutting 5% of their global workforce.
Yeah, that's about 875 people.
Exactly. And was this just a standard corporate downsize?
No, it was explicitly framed as a restructuring around AI. This is a labor purge.
The purge, wow.
Yeah, according to the sources tracking this, like layoffs.fyi, tech layoffs in 2026 have already surpassed 103,000 job cuts.
And we are only in May.
Exactly. The industry is closing in on the 124,000 total cuts recorded throughout all of 2025. Companies are just clearing the deck to free up capital.
So for you, the listener, who might be a mid-level manager or a developer, this is a terrifying reality.
Yeah.
Roles are literally being liquidated to fund enterprise AI automation.
That's exactly what's happening.
But if companies are hoarding all this capital to buy AI, who are they actually buying from?
Well, the fintech firm Ramp just published their new AI index, which tracks payments from over 50,000 U.S. businesses. And the headline is massive.
What is it?
Anthropic has officially seized the paid business adoption lead from OpenAI. It's 34.4% to 32.3%.
Wait, so OpenAI is cooked?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That represents a seismic shift in the market hierarchy, though. Overall, AI use in the enterprise climbed to 50.6%, and Anthropic has quadrupled its footprint over the past year.
But let me push back on that data for a second, right? Ramp tracks corporate credit card spend.
Right.
Aren't the massive market-defining Fortune 500 contracts handled via direct invoicing? Is this data actually representative of the broader enterprise landscape?
That's a fair point. The corporate card data absolutely does have a blind spot for those massive enterprise-tier negotiated contracts, and ChatGPT definitely remains the dominant consumer brand.
Okay.
However, the trajectory of the Ramp data reveals an undeniable trend in departmental adoption. Anthropic's Claude code is really anchoring this swing.
How so?
Because it's expanding rapidly from technical coding teams into finance, legal, and research workflows, it is basically becoming the default operating system for knowledge workers.
And OpenAI is clearly feeling the pressure from that. I mean, CEO Sam Altman just announced they're giving new business customers 2 months of free Codex usage just to try and lure power users back.
Yeah, and the timing of this is wild.
Why?
Because closing statements are expected today in Oakland for the Elon Musk versus OpenAI trial.
Oh, right. The trial where Musk is accusing OpenAI of illegally converting a nonprofit charity into a massive for-profit corporation.
Exactly. And during testimony, Altman claimed that Musk's specific plans regarding AI safety worried him so deeply that he actually proposed passing control of the company to his children rather than letting Musk take over.
That courtroom drama is fascinating.
Yeah.
But from a purely corporate economic standpoint, this battle for the enterprise is really about who can automate expertise the fastest.
100%.
Just look at the startup Adaption. They were founded by Sarah Hooker, the ex-VP of research at Cohere, and they just introduced a system called Auto Scientist, which completely automates the customization of AI models.
And the results of their internal tests are the critical takeaway here. Across 8 industries, including finance, legal, and medical data, auto scientists outperformed expert-tuned models by 35% on average.
Wait, how does an AI actually fine-tune another AI? Because previously, tweaking a frontier model required like a tiny pool of highly specialized human experts manually adjusting parameters at a handful of labs, right?
Right. But Auto Scientist automates the entire iterative cycle.
Okay.
It generates synthetic training data, tests different configurations, evaluates the model's performance against a reward function, and then adjusts the hyperparameters.
Wow.
And it runs these experiments continuously without a human in the loop until it meets the user's specific performance goal.
And that brings us to the fatal flaw of this entire enterprise shift. Because automating expertise requires a staggering amount of computing power.
Yes, it does.
So the third major constraint we are seeing today is the sudden, violent end of all-you-can-eat AI.
The consumption constraint. The industry is rediscovering a very basic physical law of computing, which is that human typing speed has limits, but automated algorithmic loops do not.
Right. And Anthropic is facing massive backlash right now because of this. They are putting strict limits on what paying customers can do.
Yeah.
If you want to use outside agent tools, like third-party harnesses such as OpenClaw, you can no longer just run them endlessly on your paid Claude subscription.
No, Anthropic is forcing that usage behind a separate credit meter.
Noah Zweben, the Claude Code product manager, was facing intense criticism on X today. I mean, users were calling the change gaslighting. They were threatening to switch to OpenAI's Codex.
But Anthropic simply does not have a choice.
Well, why is one coder using a tool suddenly such a massive problem for a company with billions in funding?
Okay, consider the difference between a standard calculator and a chess computer. When a human uses a chatbot, it's like a calculator. It only computes when you press equals. You send a prompt, you wait for the response, read it, and maybe send a few dozen more throughout the day. It is a slow, linear drip of compute.
Right, a dripping faucet.
Exactly. But an autonomous coding agent is like a chess computer, playing both sides of the board millions of times before it makes a single move.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it is a continuous recursive loop. The agent generates thousands of requests.
Yes.
It writes code, skins up a virtual environment, runs continuous tests, browses the web for documentation when an error occurs, and recursively calls other models to check its own work. It's an absolute flood of compute demand.
Like leaving every fire hydrant in the city open.
Yeah.
And this creates a devastating dilemma for businesses. It's the conflict between security and cost.
How so?
Well, the UK's AI Safety Institute recently reported that AI cyber attack capabilities are basically doubling every few months. In their simulated breaches, frontier models like Mythos Preview and GPT 5.5 are now successfully completing sophisticated attacks.
So to fight autonomous AI attacks, you basically have to deploy more autonomous AI.
Exactly. Microsoft just introduced MDASH, which chains together over 100 specialized agents just to hunt for software bugs in Windows.
And Synthesia, a software security firm, just published a 6-step technique to automate code security reviews.
Right.
They claim it achieves cybersecurity performance similar to Anthropic's massive Mythos model, but without needing an expensive frontier model.
And how do they do that?
Well, they prep the code, map the entry points, and then send cheaper specialized agents to hunt for injection attacks, authorization issues, and logic flaws. They managed to get the cost down to less than $4 per review.
That's incredibly cheap, but there is a very telling detail in their methodology about the economic constraints we are discussing.
What's that?
Synthesia's agents actively remove duplicate findings before fully investigating them.
Wait, really?
Yes, they are actively degrading the thoroughness of the investigation simply to save tokens.
Oh,
The hidden management cost of these recursive agents is causing sheer financial panic in corporate IT departments. Massive enterprises are discovering that unmanaged agentic workflows will just devour an entire IT budget in weeks.
when companies like Uber are burning through their annual AI budgets in a matter of months because of unmanaged autonomous agents, it is clear that deploying AI at scale requires more than just raw compute. It requires management infrastructure. We want to thank our sponsor, ARIA, for making today's briefing possible. ARI provides the enterprise-grade AI management platform that organizations need to track token usage, govern agents, and turn AI potential into measurable, secure workflow automation. You can find their link in the show notes.
What's fascinating here is that this insatiable token burn, this absolute desperation for compute, is directly warping the physical hardware market and valuation metrics.
Oh, definitely.
We are moving from software limits to hard physical limits.
And warping is almost an understatement.
Yeah.
Cerebras, the chip design company, just had its IPO. It priced at $350 a share on its first day of trading.
Which is incredible.
It is. That values the company at roughly $107 billion. Their market cap basically doubled overnight.
And the valuation is entirely driven by the economics of speed. I mean, there is an old e-commerce rule of thumb. Every 100 milliseconds of latency costs Amazon 1% in sales.
Right. If the page hesitates, the customer leaves.
Exactly. And that exact same logic is now the defining rule of AI inference. Token consumers have an absolute bottomless willingness to pay for speed.
SemiAnalysis actually published a breakdown of this phenomena. They noted that in April, 80% of their AI spend, which peaked at a $10 million annualized rate, was spent entirely on Opus 4.6 fast mode.
Right.
And that fast mode charges 6 times the standard price.
And companies are happy to pay a 600% markup. I mean, Cerebras currently has a massive 750 megawatt data center deal with OpenAI, and their chips are already serving GPT 5.3 and codecs via a system called Spark.
Because whether you are doing complex vibe coding, meaning just describing what you want the software to do in plain English and letting the model write the actual syntax, or just standard chatting, the lack of latency changes the entire utility of the tool.
It does.
So what does this all mean? Can Cerebras just print more chips and scale up to meet this infinite demand? They have billions in public market capital now.
Well, capital cannot bypass the laws of physics.
Right.
Cerebras relies on a brilliant but highly constrained architectural design. Instead of making lots of little chips and wiring them together, they manufacture one massive wafer-scale chip.
Okay.
To achieve their incredible speed, they place a massive amount of memory, specifically SRAM, directly on that wafer, physically right next to the compute cores.
Oh, so that eliminates the time it takes to move data back and forth across a motherboard.
Exactly. The physical proximity is what generates the speed. But here is the highly technical reality of why the hardware pipeline is choking.
Let's hear it.
Moore's law, the observation that transistors shrink and get denser every couple of years, applies beautifully to compute logic, but it is completely failing SRAM memory.
Explain that. Why is memory hitting a wall when processing power isn't?
So a logic gate can be miniaturized relatively easily, but an SRAM memory cell requires 6 transistors arranged in a very specific configuration to hold a piece of data without it leaking or destabilizing.
Okay.
And when you try to shrink those 6 transistors down to the atomic scale, the electrical interference becomes unmanageable. The memory becomes unstable.
Oh, wow.
So SRAM is simply not shrinking much with each new semiconductor node.
That makes sense. I mean, look at the specs for the Cerebras chips. The WSE2 chip had 40 gigabytes of memory on the wafer. When they moved to the much newer, much more advanced WSE3, it only moved to 44 gigabytes.
Right.
That is a tiny incremental gain.
And this is catastrophic for agentic AI. To run autonomous agents, you need massive context windows. A 128K context window allows the AI to hold entire code bases or reference manuals in its active memory while it works.
But Cerebras physically cannot fit the required memory onto the wafer to support millions of agents running 128K context windows simultaneously.
Exactly. To add more SRAM, they either have to sacrifice the compute processing area on the chip or attempt incredibly difficult, expensive 3D wafer bonding techniques.
Which is literally stacking chips on top of each other, right?
Yes, and that introduces massive cooling and failure rate issues. The physical constraint of silicon is just undeniable.
And this strain on the hardware pipeline is causing macro turbulence across the entire global economy. Nvidia just became the first company to hit a $5.5 trillion market cap.
Wow.
Yeah, and they just partnered with David Silver's Ineffable Intelligence to build training pipelines specifically for reinforcement learning agents.
Right. Those RL agent pipelines require a fundamentally different scale of hardware.
For those not deep in the weeds, RL is reinforcement learning, which is essentially training an AI by throwing it into a simulated environment and letting it learn by trial, error, and reward millions of times per second.
And the partnership is specifically targeting NVIDIA's new Vera Rubin hardware architecture to handle that simulation load. I mean, the demand is so extreme, it is literally reshaping international trade.
Yeah, geopolitics is becoming another hard constraint.
Definitely.
The U.S. Commerce Department approved sales of NVIDIA's H200 chips to 10 Chinese tech companies. But get this, not a single chip has actually shipped since President Trump cleared the deal in January.
Right, because a former Taiwan legislator noted recently that adding NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang to Trump's Beijing trip at the last minute shows the administration is using Huang as a literal bargaining chip in trade talks with Xi Jinping.
Wow.
The chips are basically hostages to the tariff negotiations. Meanwhile, just to report what the sources are saying here, Chinese tech firms are simply leaning heavily into homegrown semiconductors, which sort of proves export curbs are an inefficient constraint anyway.
The broader economic backdrop to all of this is incredibly volatile, too. Yesterday, the Senate confirmed Kevin Warsh as the new Fed chair in a 54-45 vote. He has a venture capital background. He's very pro-AI, very pro-Bitcoin. The market expectation was that he would immediately cut interest rates.
But he is stepping in to replace Jerome Powell exactly as the latest economic data shows the biggest inflation print since May of 2023.
Right.
So the cost of capital to build out these massive 750 megawatt data centers might stay painfully high.
And the tension over this capital squeeze is spilling out into public view. Venture capital firms are literally taking out advertisements against each other.
It's getting messy.
It is. General Catalyst just ran an ad called Meet GC that took direct shots at Mark Andreessen and his firm A16s, mocking his highly publicized love of robot dogs.
Yeah, and Andreessen fired back on X, calling the ad a smarmy attempt at a Mac versus PC commercial. They are fighting a bitter public relations war over the moral high ground of tech investments.
While General Catalyst is simultaneously backing prediction markets like Kalshi and Polymarket, which are currently at the absolute center of tech's morality debate regarding gambling and election interference.
It is literally a knife fight for the remaining resources of a pipeline that is rapidly drying up.
Yeah.
It perfectly illustrates the anxiety of the moment. The capital is expensive, the chips are physically constrained, and the usage is just spiraling out of control.
All right, let's summarize the autopsy for you, the listener. The thesis of today's deep dive definitely holds up. The era of the infinite pipeline is officially dead.
It really is.
Publishers and media companies are being cut off from users by a closed-loop, zero-search environment orchestrated by Google and Amazon.
Yep.
Human workers are being cut off from unlimited AI subscriptions because autonomous agents are devouring the available compute.
Right.
And the hardware companies building the infrastructure are hitting the physical limits of shrinking SRAM memory cells. Everything is now bound by hard constraints.
But there is one final piece of news from today that reframes this entire conversation.
Oh.
While tech companies fight over physical and economic limits, a profound moral constraint is being introduced. Tomorrow, Pope Leo XIV is expected to sign his first encyclical, reportedly titled Magnifica Humanitas Magnificent Humanity.
And the timing of this is incredibly deliberate, isn't it?
It is. He is signing it on the exact anniversary of an 1891 document called Rerum Novarum. That was Pope Leo XIII's foundational text defending labor rights and human dignity during the brutal peak of the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pope Leo XIV is explicitly positioning AI as the defining moral and labor challenge of our century. He is arguing that technology must remain subordinate to the human person.
Right.
He is demanding that AI systems be constrained to protect workers, protect human creativity, and preserve moral agency.
The Vatican has even implemented formal AI guidelines inside Vatican City to enforce this philosophy locally.
Exactly.
So while venture capitalists are fighting over the cost of inference speed, the Vatican is stepping in to ask, in a world defined by constraints, what is the ultimate value we're actually trying to preserve?
It's a massive question.
It is. For 20 years, we let the digital water flow freely, and we just built whatever floated on top. Now the tap is being heavily restricted. Digital distribution is going to zero, corporate computing tokens are being strictly rationed, and autonomous algorithms are doing the heavy lifting in the enterprise.
Right.
So I want to leave you with this question to mull over. In a future where efficiency is king and resources are metered by the millisecond, how do you ensure your own human creativity doesn't become the next thing that gets algorithmically optimized out of existence?
That's the real challenge.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.